talked a little bit in the past about energy levels and arousal levels and emotions. And I'm sure OTs probably know the answer to this, but as speech language pathologists, um, to me, it's really hard for me to see what the difference is because usually we see an emotion if somebody is over, under aroused. And then I'm like, well, that does change their energy. So explain to us, what is the difference between emotion, energy, and arousal levels?
Okay, let's start with arousal levels, i.e., if I'm sound asleep, I'm not ready to learn.
Mhm.
I'm not aroused.
Yeah.
If I'm half asleep, I'm not aroused enough to be able to learn. I'm not aroused enough to have any energy. I'm not aroused enough to communicate. Arousal level has to come first. Now, you can swing to the opposite where you're so overly aroused. Again, you can't pay attention because you're just aroused by everything that's happening around you.
Mhm.
You're just taking in information and you can't focus your attention. So arousal level is the first thing you want to look at. How ready are they in terms of just alert and attentive and ready to take in information? Then you can look at their energy level in terms of, if I'm sitting there slumped in my chair like this, am I ready to move and act or even talk? Well, no, probably not. I'm not going to talk much. I don't have the energy. Well, that's the
Mhm.
difference between arousal. I mean, I may be mentally aroused, but not physically energized, which means moving my muscles. And because autistics have such low tone, it takes more energy on our part to even just sit up straight and be ready. I mean, we can be just sitting there, and that takes energy on our part, a lot more energy than it takes a typical child. So, energy is the physical component. Arousal is mental. What's going on in terms of how ready and alert are you? Are you overly alert, under alert? That's the mental part of just being ready to learn. Physically, are you able to sit up straight and you have the energy, you're ready to move, versus are you too much energy? I can't sit still. I am all over the place. I've got to move. I this urge, I've got too much energy. So you've got the extremes and you've got, hopefully the middle is what you want.
Yeah.
Um, and then the third component was
Emotion.
emotions. Okay. Now, emotions come into play primarily, they can come from either internal memories that you have of situations, i.e., I'm in a situation where I know I'm going to be expected and I'm not ready to attend, but they're expecting me to. I don't have the energy. I am really running out of energy, but they're going to expect me to. It's what other people, it comes from either the memory they have of that situation or what's actually happening in that situation that triggers an emotion in yourself of, okay, you're asking things of me. It's that fear of expectations that I grew up with. I learned to be a ghost. I said nothing, did nothing to keep under the radar so people wouldn't expect things of me because I didn't know that I would be ready or could do
Mhm.
it. So therefore, I just didn't do anything. I kept out of the radar, so that fear of expectations can drive emotions. Then, if you don't succeed and your efforts aren't rewarded, only the fact that you succeeded or didn't succeed, now you failed. That triggers emotions. All of those things that will then trigger emotions that have to do with the actual expectations and whether you meet those expectations or not, and how
Mhm.
you feel about yourself. Well, I feel bad about myself. I'm the one that's at fault because they're telling me I should be able to do this and then I'm not, or I feel I can't. I'm the one that's now you get negative feelings about yourself. That's where emotions come into play. Emotions are the
Mhm.
side effect of the first, the ability to attend, the ability to move when you need to without extremes. Um, and then it feeds into how you feel about yourself and the world around you in terms of, I'm afraid. People terrified me my whole life
Mm.
because they did and said things that I didn't understand or that I didn't expect. They had expectations of me. The world was a terrifying place for me. So
Mm.
yes, I grew up with tremendous amounts of anger and frustration, and those are the only emotions I knew until in my 50s. I learned from a book how to separate what, under this circumstances, instead of anger, I must be feeling this. I had to rationally figure out what I was feeling because everything went from 0 to 10, which is anger.
Mhm. So it sounds like I love how you just put it because you really made it, and I need black and white. That's how my brain works. So the emotion is more what's caused by the external, and
Yeah.
then the arousal is in the brain and the energy is the body. That makes
Yeah.
so much more sense. Now, don't get me wrong, it's probably still going to be like, okay, which one is it? But just because the body and the brain, I've actually had clients where their body, their energy looked in homeostasis,
Mhm.
but they'll share with me that my brain is too busy right now. And so their brain arousal.
Yeah.
So we do have that amazing freebie that you put together of arousal levels and what either an autistic individual can fill it out themselves if they're aware of their arousal levels. Therapists and parents can fill it out with their kiddo or client or based on their observations. I that's the last recommendation is based on observations if the client can tell you, but try with the client because you know one thing, and I know autistic adults talk about this a lot. Don't tell me how I feel. Don't tell me how what
Mhm.
what I'm doing or feeling. And I totally can relate to that. I hate when people tell me how I'm feeling. So try to fill it out with them as much as possible, not just for them, but it'll help figure out what does arouse them, what brings them down, and it'll be super helpful to just kind of figure out those pieces. So thanks, Sue. That explains so much with that information. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Stacy.